Welcome back to Currently in Progress. This is our second episode with Scott Govitz. On the podcast today, we talk about The Price is Right, what to do when a hook gets stuck in your face, and about being a mayor. Let's get into it. Okay. So, how was it being on The Price is Right when you were on that?
It was a lifetime dream. I don't know if that's the right word, but I had decided at some point, I think this is important for people to think about. I'm going to do something in the future, then actually do it. So I decided at some point that I was going on The Price is Right, period. And I was going to go to the show and I was going to make it on the show. And so I talked a friend into going, and I had an aunt and uncle that lived in California. We went and stayed with them. Had an interesting time all the way out to the show itself.
Yeah.
Things started falling into place, like extraordinarily. So like we had a trip planned, and we get to the airport, and it so happens that I know someone who knows someone at the counter, and all of a sudden we're upgraded to first class. And we eat steak dinner on the way out there, and I'm like, wow, this is a good sign. And then we get there, and the car that we wanted wasn't available, and we got upgraded to a newer car, a better car, convertible car. So I'm like, wow, this is really telling. Then you get to the show, and the way it works is they actually bring you in really early in the morning, so you have to get there really early. And the first ones in line get the first ticket. The first ticket is like the first seat on the lower right, first row. And then it goes from there.
Yeah.
So if you're in the first 10 rows, it means you got there really early.
Mm-hmm.
They say go away, have breakfast, and come back. And then when you come back, they interview you. They bring you in groups of 10, and they'll interview you individually. You only have 30 seconds or less.
Yep.
Nate,
Quick.
tell me about yourself.
And then you go, yeah.
And so I said, yeah. It went something like this. Hi, my name is Scott. I'm from Beaverton, Michigan, population 1,150. I can tell you that because I'm the mayor. And if you put me on the show, I'll promise you more viewers than anyone else because I have 44 aunts and uncles and lots of cousins. I think it was something like that.
Perfect.
And they liked it. And so not only, and so I was a nervous wreck because my friend actually, I thought, did a better interview than I did. And he wasn't planning to get on the show. And I'm like, if you get on the show and I don't, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
So then they get you all revved up, and it's really loud in there at the beginning. And then it's so loud you can't hear your name called. Back then there was a guy named Rod Roddy who had the splashy jackets on that he would wear, and Bob Barker was the host.
Yeah.
And so it's so loud in there, they've got you all revved up, you can't hear, so they hold up a card, and it has your name on it. Well, before you walked into the studio, actually, they give you the little yellow name tag that you have on. Well, my first name is actually Leonard, and it's spelled uncommonly, L-E-N-A-R-D. But when I walked into the studio, they looked at my name tag, and they said, okay, Leonard, is your name spelled right? And I thought, well, that's odd. Why would they ask me that? That's kind of a good sign, I think. And so then the first contestant is called, and it's not me, and I'm disappointed. And the second contestant is called, and it's not me, and I'm disappointed. And the third card goes up, and it's not me, and I'm disappointed. And the fourth card goes up, and it was my name. I couldn't believe it. It's crazy. So I got all excited. I high-fiving everybody, and we were in the first few rows anyway. And down I went, and then the rest is a sad story.
Yeah. What happened after that?
They put me in the prime spot. Okay, so if you're the fourth one called,
you get to
fourth bidder.
Oh yeah.
And I had a game plan going in. If I get called, I'm going to play the $1 game.
Oh,
the whole way. I'm going $1 either way, unless it's just crazy. And I did. And I got close one time within $3. $3. And a guy did the $1 to me.
Yep.
Went up and had a chance, and I think won a $45,000 Lincoln. And I'm like, man, I was just heartbroken.
Yeah.
Well, it kept going, and I was dragging along doing this $1 thing, and Barker finally says to me, and he was kind of getting, I don't know, a little irritated because I kept doing it, and this poor gal next to me,
Yeah.
I kept doing it to her, and he said, Leonard, if you keep that up, she's going to end up slugging you. And I'm like, yeah, I know, sheepishly, and the next time I didn't do it. Because he said that.
And that was the time that it would have worked.
That was the time it would have worked. I died in contestants row. So I've kind of been saying I'm going to make a return visit 25 years later, tell my story, and I'm sure I'll get back on the show and win this time. That's my plan.
Oh my God. Bob Barker convinced you not to do the one.
He did.
He just talked you right out of it.
He talked me out of it, and and a $45,000 Lincoln, playing one of the easiest games of all time, which is the Lucky Strike game, where you put your hand in the bag and, unless you, as long as you keep pulling out numbers, you can put the numbers in the right spot. You get 3 X's and you're done. That's what they did. They won the Lincoln. I did. So I came home and drove a cruddy car for a long time.
My God. And then, so who went with you to that?
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Joe Whiter, Beaverton guy. Yeah. He's now the president and CEO of a company, and doing very well for himself. But longtime family history here in the community, and he said, "Oh, what the heck, I'll go."
Yeah.
And we were young, a lot younger, and tearing around still, and so we went out there and had a great time.
Yeah. Did you work with him at all? Like?
No, I didn't work with Joe. We were just friends. We toured around Beaverton a lot together, and just had a good time. And we both had some vacation, and
we had
we had basically a free stay out there. So what the heck? Why not?
It's kind of, that's the Bob Barker thing. Talking you out of that's funny.
Yeah,
maybe
now.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. I'm often asked about that, but it wasn't happy at the time.
No.
I left pretty disappointed, but I did leave with a.
At least you got at least you got up there.
I did. I mean, it was awesome.
How much did you practice that spiel?
Not really much. I think I probably pulled it together just kind of before going in, because I wasn't really sure what to do. But I wanted to say something that I thought would let these very young producers, I mean, younger than you,
wow.
Sitting in the chair, they're the ones who decide who goes and who doesn't. Yeah. And I wanted to impress upon them. It's all about viewership for them.
Yeah,
they want someone who's excitable in viewership. And so that's what I tried to do.
And obviously it worked.
It worked, and then I got a fair amount of press back here. A lot of people were interested.
The aunts and uncles.
Yeah, lots of newspaper articles about it,
yeah.
and had I won, I probably would have been on local TV here about it too. That's normally what happens. But it was fun, great time.
That's awesome. That is awesome, though. I would never have thought that. And it's like the whole thing about you setting your mind to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to be on this show.
I definitely was going to be on that show.
And you just made it happen.
I made it happen. I mean, I was going out there, and I would have been devastated if I didn't get on that show. Not devastated, but I would have been disappointed.
You would have been disappointed.
I would have.
All that just to get all the way to that point, and then boom. But yeah, it was what else, like, in your life have you been like, I'm going to do this, and it has happened?
I mean, 2 things come to mind right away. Out of high school here in this community, which was such a fun time for me, I could have been a great student, but I wasn't. Mm-hmm. Playing and having fun in school and being the class clown, now that was fun. And that was way more important to me. And I didn't come from a family who, was traditionally, you're going to college and you're going to get a degree and the like. It was, finish school, get married, have a family, have a good job, and raise a family. Mm-hmm. That was sort of the goal. But I went to work in one of the local plastics plants, and I worked 7 years on the midnight shift. Dang. And I did that for a couple of reasons, the midnight shift. And that was, I wanted to stay away from the white shirts. Those are the bosses, the daytime guys. And that was one. The other was it was a hot place to work, especially obviously during the summer. And so the coolness of the night at least lowered the temp by 20 degrees. But I toiled there for 7 years, and I knew I could do better. And I started at the community college at which I now work, and have worked for 21 years. And I started there by taking 3 credit hours. I didn't even know, Nate, how to get to college. I really didn't. I had no idea. I went there and no idea that I was going to go there and sign up for classes and then I had to actually pay for them then. Yeah. Financially, it was not nearly as prevalent as it is today. But I ticked away at it, picked away. And eventually I got to a point where in my mind, once I learned that I could do college, I made the decision that I was going to go to college, get a degree, and do something. I didn't know what the something was. And there was a lucky story behind the graduation when I ultimately got there. But yeah, that was one real decision in my life where I decided I am going to do this.
And you're going to graduate.
I'm going to graduate. I'm going to do something different, whatever that ends up being.
That's the same. I mean, I was kind of in the same boat. And it's like I was gonna go to college, but I knew I was always gonna have to go to college, but I just didn't know what it was gonna be for.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And like I went to Mid obviously for 2 years, and then I went to Central. And when I went to Central, I started off at athletic training because I thought maybe blah blah blah. This would be my path, whatever. Did the first class, and I was like, I looked at the job description and more in depth and all the stuff that you're gonna do. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with what I would like to do. So I went back to like exercise science, and I loved the whole process of it. All the classes that were related to that were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And like I got to train one of the professors there, and I still I've emailed him once or twice after the fact, and he always he loved it. It was fun. And but now after I'm done with it, you look back and like didn't really look at what careers were going to come out of that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not the most glamorous at
Right,
all. So
right.
now I'm kind of back. I'm not at step one, obviously, because you have a degree, and with a degree you can do a lot more,
Mhm.
just because. But we're kind of back to step one, trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life, and
Yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah.
But,
Well, the good thing is you have time.
Mhm.
I look at you and your age, and I know that you have time to do what you want to do.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to follow dreams. I think it's important to give it a try while you're young and see if you can make it happen. Now, our adulting says get busy, get doing something.
Get going.
And I think there's something to be said for that too, because I think we have a lot of people who, for lack of a better word, they are lazy.
Mhm.
I'm going to chase a dream forever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not lazy. It's maybe the wrong word, but the adulting part says get working, get
Yeah.
doing something.
It's not a priority to them. That
No.
dream. That's other things are a priority, and they just think that that's their path, but they never put that effort into it. So
Mhm.
it's hard to make steps to something when you're not even taking the little steps. Like it's not going to happen at once.
Yeah. No, the first thing is the kick in the pants. Either someone else kicking you in the pants or you doing it to yourself, which is even better. It's the best way to say, I am going to accomplish this.
Yeah.
And then you go do it. And the human mind is magnificent when you actually do accomplish something. I remember taking certain classes, or maybe some of the first classes, and getting an A and going, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
And once you do that and your mind turns that switch, it's awesome power.
Yeah.
And it follows. But your story in taking the classes is very similar. I mean, before I tell you about that though, with the working in the local plastics company,
Yep.
I had some awesome experiences there too. People I worked with were awesome. Great, down to earth people,
Mhm.
just trying to make a living. And what that taught me was that it is really important not to forget where you came from
Mhm.
and the experiences that you had, and that there are still people stuck there. And I say stuck because they don't want to be there. They would rather do something else, but because of life's circumstances or the path they chose, they're there.
Mhm.
But I never ever, and I've been able to do this a lot in my job, is to visit local companies because I do workforce training.
Mhm.
And so always make sure that I am talking to the persons on the line.
Mhm.
I was there. I know what it's like. And when I stick my hand out sometimes to shake a hand, they would say, oh, you don't want to shake my hand, it's dirty. And I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, I do want to shake your
Yeah.
hand.
You're good.
You're good. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
I have such respect for people who are still in those jobs and positions. And it's humbling, it's grounding, and it keeps you, I don't know.
Understanding.
Yeah, understanding where they're at.
Because
And-
you put yourself back in that position, and it's just like, well, you got to do what you got to do. Like,
Absolutely. And so I'll do anything to help them.
yeah.
So, but in that path of choosing, you were talking about taking some classes
Yep.
and saying, wow, this is for me.
Yep.
I did the same thing. I was going to go to school for broadcasting. I was going to be a television broadcaster.
Yeah.
Yep. And I had already accomplished radio. I worked for a local radio station when I was a freshman in school. I got a glamorous job, 10-hour shift on a Sunday. Yeah. And so there was some good and bad to that. The good was what an experience, and so many people knew me as a result that,
Yep.
you know, it was pre-Facebook, pre anything,
Yep.
social media. And so it was like exposure that, it's kind of like people getting likes today, I think. I'm not on any of those social media, but I know how they
It's
chase.
for sure. Oh yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like that. It's like, wow, they know me. That's cool.
They
That's-
know, yeah. They
that's
know
fun.
me through something else
Right.
that I didn't even know that they were listening to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I learned every country music song of the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, early 80, that there was. And then it was a Sunday, and so part of that whole Sunday was televangelist and related shows that I would play as a part of the broadcast that day. So I got to hear about God a fair amount, and that brought me back full circle later in life, and I can tell you more about that if interested. I certainly want to give God praise for what He's done in my life. It's been an incredible journey with lots of pits and valleys, but He's pulled me out. But the broadcasting at Central Michigan University, I went there for that, and I had already did radio, and I got there, and then you have to take classes, as you well know.
Yep.
In, let's say, weightlifting 101.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at you. I mean, okay, you already know about weightlifting 500
Yep.
class. You don't need a 100 level, and yet the bad thing about higher education is,
You got to take it.
it force feeds this stuff to us that's
Yeah.
expensive and that I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
Right?
I had to learn about how a child learns to talk. We talked about babbling children in the class, and it was like, well, and babbling was the correct term for it. That was what they like. What kids do is babble. And it was just like, why? I mean, I get it. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, I'm gonna have a kid one day, so you kind of think about that. But like, other than that, I have no interest in how kids learn how to talk.
And I had no interest in learning about how a movie was made.
Yeah.
From 1940.
No,
and
you
yet,
want to know now. If you're doing it.
So I had no interest in it. I'm sitting in the class going, why? What? This isn't what I want to do. Get me to a microphone. Get me in front of a camera. That's what I want to do. But I also had to take a poli-sci class, political science, and I got an A in it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I ran for school board at 18 years old. I was one of 5 candidates running for a local school election here, and I took second place in that election. So obviously I didn't get it, but I had a political interest from an early age.
Yeah.
And so I took that poli-sci class, got an A. All right, next semester I'll do that again. Took that, loved it.
Yeah.
Another A, and all of a sudden I'm a poli-sci major.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an area I loved.
And it just kind of fit. It just happened.
It just happened.
Yeah.
It happened. And so, you get to a point though, you'll get to a point and you'll go, okay, I am done.
Yeah.
I want out of here.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about?
It will. I mean, it's this fall. It's this fall, summer. Once I graduate and get done with this class, I'm out of there.
I tell some of the young people who are in college now, freshmen,
Yep.
sophomore-ish, and I will say, there's going to come a time. It's fun now.
Oh, it's
You're
super
having
fun,
a riot.
yeah.
But there will be a day you're going to go, why am I still here? I have got to get out of here.
Yeah. It's the realization. It's like, if I keep doing this, I keep doing this. And I just don't want to keep doing this, and I keep putting myself in the situation to keep doing it. And it's just like, I don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Right.
And if you don't like completely separate yourself, you never will get out of those habits. And it's obviously hard, because I still go to the bar a little too often, and it's just like, I don't even drink anymore. I just go because my buddies want to go and they want to hang out with people, and I'm like, I love hanging out with people, so I'll do that. But like, it just takes time. Like, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could be working towards these things that I want to do, and why am I just taking the easy way out? And it's just like, eventually, once I get, now I'm saying it, I need to just do it, obviously, but come summertime, when I either have to make a decision, I'm trying to either start substitute teaching for Beaverton, come back, just to change things up, and then save up to go travel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just literally waiting until I get to go travel, and that is
Yeah.
once I can make that big leap into the next phase, we can see what we have.
Yeah. No, been there, done that. So glad to have figured that phase out of my life eventually. And I always marveled at, I have a friend, you know this friend, as well, who never drank and would go and be entertained by us.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, you are nuts. I mean, you are crazy. One of the wisest decisions I ever made was turning down an offer to go into entrepreneurship in a bar. And I'm like, no, not in my DNA, not in my future. It's just not
Just not
going to
something you
happen.
wanna
The
be a part of.
last thing I want to do is sit across from that bar from what I'm looking at there and put up with that for hours, and one of which would be me. No, not going to happen.
No.
So I marvel at these people who can go and be the driver and think that it's somehow funny and fun. I don't see it.
There's definitely points where you're just like, I want to go home, but in the end of it, you're already there. You decided to go.
Yeah.
You might as well sit there and make the most out of it. Like you can see people walking around the bar, and you know who the drunk people are. You know where the funny's gonna come. It's clear as day. If you sit back and just look at it, you know exactly who's gonna trip 5 steps from now, and it's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
And then you can also see the super hot girl, beeline right where you think that he's gonna trip, and then it just happens, and it's just like, I saw it, and it was funny, and then no one, and it's funny because those 2 people do it, and then they'll be the only ones that they think, no, they look around after and they're like, oh, no one saw. I'm like, yeah, I'm 20
the sober
feet back
guy
here.
did.
Yeah, I saw that. That was funny.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm glad that you you don't drink and and that you can take care of your buddies. But I'm so glad to be thinking back a time ago. It spent a long time for me, but getting away from all of that and getting away from school and the like is.
So what took you out of that? What was the next step? After college, where?
Oh, after college.
Yeah, after all that. Yeah,
so after college, I had such a, just another blessing. I was looking for a job. I was still living at college, and my fiance was there too, and ended up getting a phone call from then Congressman Bill Schuette's office. And Bill Schuette is long-time political guy, but I got a call from his office from an individual named Karen McKellar. Karen, oddly enough, was a Beaverton High School graduate.
There you go.
And her husband as well. And so they knew our family and the family name, and so she got the list from CMU of poli-sci grads, saw my name, called and said, are you interested in an interview for a congressman's office? I'm like, I don't know anything about working for a congressman. I literally didn't really know politics at the level to really be engaged in political discussion, to be quite honest with you. But I interviewed, and they hired me, and I worked as a legislative aide to the congressman for a couple of years stint. And it would have been longer, and I'm not sure where it would have led, but a lot of the people that worked there actually went on to political careers. But the then congressman, ran against then a behemoth in the political world here in Michigan, Carl Levin, who was a Democrat senator for decades, and took him on and lost badly. And so when he lost, we lost our jobs.
Because that's how it works.
That's how it works. And so now I'm left with trying to figure out how to, where do you go with a political science degree beyond where I was? Fortunately, I did a stint as an internship as a city manager, which was where I had my eyes.
Yep.
And lo and behold, eventually that's what I ended up doing. I did a did city management in my own hometown, and I got the call to come do it.
Yeah.
Which was another blessing. So that was the political thing. While with him, though, I had some awesome experiences because he ran. He had to do fundraisers.
Yep.
And so he brought in the big, political well-knowns of the time in order to raise funds. And so then President Gerald Ford came to town. And so I had an opportunity to be with the president there and in that setting and meet him and the like. And then Senator John McCain came to town. And this is a lot of years ago. People most recently, if they remember John McCain, will remember that he was a veteran who was put in imprisonment,
Yep.
ended up severely injured and not deformed, but had physical ailments as a result of that. Well-known
Yep.
political guy. So he came to town, and it was my job, actually. The fundraiser was in Midland, and they put him up in Best Western Hotel there.
Mm-hmm.
And so my job was sort of stationed outside the room there while
take care of him
and then bring him over to the event. And as it turns out, he said, "Do you have a comb that I can borrow?" I had a comb in my pocket.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I had a comb in my pocket, so I give him my comb, and he had snow white hair, just as right to the end. And he borrowed my comb, and so my claim to fame is not only that, but he stole my comb. He never gave it back. Never gave my comb back. So he is.
So you have my comb.
You have my comb. I never asked for it, of course, and and
maybe if you see him again, though, will you?
No, well, only if he's in heaven.
Oh.
Only if he's in heaven. But so he stole my comb, took him over to the event, and that was pretty neat experiences as a result of that. And I've had many since then. But I was going to tell you something more about the McCain experience, but maybe it'll come back to me.
Come back to you. So it just keeps. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a reoccurring theme, but like, how much do you base your career off of people coming to you based on your past experiences? Because that's what it seems like. You just work somewhere, you do good enough, and then when something falls through, something always picks back up.
I've been so blessed, Nate. I mean, honestly, I just marvel at it. People can't see, but I'm shaking my head right now as I'm telling you this. I have been so blessed. I have never looked for a job.
It just comes.
Every time someone has came to me and called or knocked on the door and said, "Hey, would you be interested in?" And I've turned so many down.
But
over
I
the
mean,
years.
just having it, it's not even like a fallback, because it's obviously. I mean, you obviously consistently have work, but just to know that enough people out there are thinking of you, like, oh man, the instant he's free, maybe we can scoop him up, and it's such a. I mean, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's humbling. I'm so thankful for it, but I think the key is I've always tried to work really hard, no matter what I did.
Yeah, where you're at.
Wherever I'm at, I worked hard. I was always a professional at work. Not so much out of work, but at work I was a professional.
Yep.
In fact, I would once say, I wear two hats. I wear my work hat, where it's all work. It's not that I don't have any fun at work.
Yeah.
I had to share that too, but I work hard. And I am really, I feel kind to people.
Yeah.
And all anyone wants is your coworker.
Yeah.
And as a friend, is just respect.
Yep.
And kindness. And man, if you can combine those two things, and you're at work every day, and you're on time, and you're dedicated,
Yep.
and you get the work done, I don't know what can hold anyone back.
Yeah. It's a weird. I mean, and the people that don't do that are the people that are thinking about what they could do outside of work, or what they, what are they going to do next? And it's like, you don't know what you're going to do next. Mm-hmm. So you might as well be good at what you're doing now, so there is something next. Because if you just keep getting fired from your jobs or doing something bad, it's a weird concept, and it's a lack of happens a lot in college too, I feel like, just because, and I've kept a consistent 6 years at Dunham's, and I see people obviously at Dunham's go through and just, cycle,
Right.
like 3 months of people. And it's like, I get it, but where did you go? I don't obviously see too many of these people after, but where did you go after that? Did you go to Chipotle, or did you go to like how many places have you worked?
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like, obviously the inconsistency, but like, are you gonna get that next job? That fear alone keeps me at Dunham's, because I don't know if I'm gonna get the next job, and I need the paycheck.
Right, and I think that's a significant difference from the generations, certainly from yours to mine, and my dad's.
Yeah.
And
For sure that next generation.
So we're dedicated to our employer. I mean, I honestly look at my employer and I am thankful that they hired me.
Yeah.
Like, I owe my employer
Yep.
dedication. And
They gave you the opportunity.
They gave me the opportunity when I asked for it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't come.
me,
In this case, they actually did come to me. But you know what I mean? If you're asking for the opportunity,
you better follow through.
then you should follow through. You have an obligation.
Yeah.
And millennials and Zers, not so much. And that is a stark difference. And I don't think it's a good one. Because that carries over into other stuff. What does that say about how that might carry over into relationships?
Yeah, I can just get a new one.
I'll just get a new one. And when you look at this cell phone,
Yeah.
that's what relationships are built on. They're not real, personal, interpersonal,
Yeah.
one-on-one, face-to-face. They're make-believe
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
And that's so foreign to me. And I think it's a bad thing. One of the things that I don't like is cell phones. I think it's the worst invention that's ever occurred.
You hear that so often. It's obviously two sides of the coin on how you like. Obviously, it makes communication 20 times better. But when it comes to the younger age, for sure, being on Instagram, and I have the addiction to it too, just because I was the generation that grew up with it. Like, you were talking 7th and 8th grade, I had the slide phone, and I was sitting there texting in class.
Not good.
That was the first beginning of it all. And I mean, it's even worse now because kids are getting phones. Like, back then, we didn't get phones till maybe high school. I got my first actual phone that I could text unlimited in high school. The rest one was a track phone, and my parents made me pay for the minutes. So I'm sitting there, and if people were texting me, I'd be like, "Stop! I need the money. Like, I don't want to text you." And it's just like, kids don't have that problem anymore.
No.
So it's just like, and like I said, they're getting it way earlier.
Yeah.
You got kids that have phones when they're in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
Yeah, and of course you know all of the dangers of it. You
Yeah.
know, I only know of them.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I only know of them, and it's sad to me as I think about it, and I think about families, and I love those families who are set on not my kid, not now, no, and then I am a monitor. Yep, that's what I do. I'm monitoring my kid. Well, good for them. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Listeners may have certainly other takes. That's why we have opinions. We all get one.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think about the things that I learned growing up as I watched kids sit for hours on phones. And I did not enjoy not 1 minute helping my dad work on the water pump when it was down outside that, gave the house water. Certainly didn't enjoy helping him as he worked on the car and was frustrated. Not 1 minute did I enjoy that. But you know what? I literally know college freshmen who don't know how to jumpstart a car. And that just amazes me. Because they didn't have to. And the other thing is, they didn't learn it because they didn't have to learn it.
Yep.
And if they didn't learn it because they didn't have to learn it because they didn't have to watch and learn. And secondly, with the parents who were just immediately there to fix the problem, they did it for them.
Yeah. And what good is that eventually?
And that doesn't teach life skills. The other thing that I think it really hurts is, we live in a rural area here. We're blessed by woods and water. How many kids today know how to rabbit hunt or deer hunt or go catch a fish and clean the fish and eat the fish?
I can't clean a fish.
Right, so maybe that's not your area of interest,
But Is it a valuable skill? Yes.
It's a valuable skill. Can you plant a garden?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a minute of fun pulling weeds out of the garden.
No.
But you know what? Today I've got a garden.
Yeah, and you eat the food
And
out
I
of
eat
it,
the
and
food
it,
out
and
of it.
it's great. Yeah.
Because I learned how to do that. And I see kids sitting on phones and learning nothing, and getting answers from the phone, whether or not they're true.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
There's answers for everything, true or not.
Yep.
And so there's no critical thinking skills developed.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that comes to like the answer part that you're saying is I think there are a lot of answers on the internet. The problem is not practicing what you're like. You can try to learn whatever you want on YouTube. YouTube's a university
Right.
now, but I can sit here and look about how to play guitar and watch shit ton of videos on how to learn how to play guitar. But until I pick up a guitar and do it, I'm not gonna learn. So I don't know. You can obviously like. It's a valuable resource if you have those predetermined like practices before.
Yeah.
Like you need to know how to, suck for a little bit until you like get good at stuff. I don't know. It's so easy to look up stuff and be like, "Oh, yeah, that's really easy." And it's like, "No, it's not."
I think just the missing of the talking to people face to face. You know, I think about our families, and I come from a very sizable family. And we would, on weekends, have family gatherings.
Yeah.
And we'd have great big family reunions. And we didn't have cell phones. You talked to your elders.
Yeah.
You enjoyed learning about your past. You know, I did my family tree and family history because I was intrigued by these conversations.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you learn more. I did all of that pre-internet.
Yep.
And how many kids can tell you, that they've been with their larger family in the last year?
Yeah.
I mean, these social gatherings that are so important to the past and your history aren't occurring. Yeah. And if you're there, the kid's tucked over in the corner under the shade tree, if he's outside at all, on a cell phone.
Yeah, because the parents let him.
So I just see so many detrimental things that have occurred as a result of it, let alone all the disasters that we all know about, that can occur. And it's just, it's a great tool. But
it's a great tool, but it's not something you need to be on all the time.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. The face-to-face, when it comes to actually I don't know. When I was a kid, obviously we didn't have as much of that stuff either, so it's easier to say. But I'd go out and play in the woods. And I would look for a stick that would resemble a sword, and I would duct tape the bottom of it, and I'd beat the crap out of a tree. And if someone drove by, they'd be like, "That kid's pretty weird," It's like, no, I'm just playing with swords. Yeah. And Dad told me to. He locked the door, so I couldn't go in anyway if I wanted. But it's just, and it was fun. I would be out there for hours. I'd be out there at dark, and Dad would be yelling "Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm chilling. You stay inside. This is my place now."
Nice.
But yeah, it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that is really important is I mentioned the family community, but then you've got a community.
Yep.
And I really am a community guy, and have been for my entire life. And I think we're losing that sense of community. This past year's been difficult, but getting people to understand the importance of coming together in community around issues and resolving issues is really critical.
Super critical.
And I've always tried to do that as part of chairing a lot of different things or starting a lot of different organizational things in the community. I always try to lead in that way too. About being kind and a monotone voice. This isn't one of the big networks where you put two people on the show and they scream at each other for 2 minutes, nothing's resolved, and go away to the next segment and they do it again. We live in a small community. This is not that. We need to resolve issues here because nobody's coming in on a white horse to save the day.
Oh no.
And so I think leading in that way is a really, really important thing, and we've really lost touch with that, especially this past couple of years where the vitriol in the politics is so staggering and sickening. I watch the things that occur and I just shake my head in disgust.
Why is it even
Why
an option?
is that? It's an option because money is so infiltrated in the system that that people are so hungry for power that they will do it at all costs. Yeah. And you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So every time someone does the next idiotic thing, it gets outdone by someone else. Yeah. I just think of two quick examples. President Obama was giving a State of the Union speech, and this is at the height of the discussion about health care and Obamacare. And
so when was this recent, or was
this was when President was still in office.
Okay.
State of the Union.
Yep.
That's a big event.
Oh yeah.
The world is watching, and one of the Republican Congress people, when the then president said something about keeping your health care provider, yelled out, "Liar!" And it was audible, and there was a gasp. Yeah. Because at the time, that had never been broached, nothing like that in our legislature.
Yep.
Well, then I watch as President Trump gives a speech, and the Speaker of the House stands up and literally rips his speech apart behind him. Just an unbelievable, sickening move for the nation.
Something that you're supposed to be unified. You're standing on the same stage for the same country. It feels like no matter what is said at the time, there's a time and place to do those things.
That's right.
Outside of that, behind closed curtain.
Yeah.
And it's weird how people have grown to not care about. Obviously, these people cared about the results of their actions, but they cared more about their side of the results.
And it's because the media has put us into camps very successfully.
Oh, easily.
Very successfully placed us into camps. And most people have gravitated toward those camps, and they're hanging on for dear life in those camps. Now, I have my own political beliefs, as do you. But when I'm in my community and I'm working on local issues and I'm trying to build something like this facility and the organization,
doesn't matter which side you're on.
It doesn't matter. I have never, not once, in building an organization or the people who sit around the table in leadership, not one time that I can remember, said, are you a Republican or Democrat or independent or anything else? I literally don't care. Can you get in the boat? Can you row? And can you be a team player to get us from here to there?
Yep.
If the answer is yes, welcome aboard.
Yep.
If you want to play the other game, this is not the place for you.
Yep.
And I just wish we could, as a nation, return to that, because we're not on a good track.
That's kind of the perks of more of a small town community too, is that it's a little bit easier to get from point. Like you have a lot more. Obviously, you should have more community sense because there's not as many of you, so you kind of got to deal with each other.
Right, and we've been pretty good about that. But the media has been masterful once again at putting us into camps and getting everybody fighting and keeping the fight going. That people who buy into that do cause problems in the community and do stir the pot, and then you do end up with issues that you have to resolve. And at the end of the day, what I say is I don't play that reindeer game. And I don't want to be a part of it. What I often ask is rhetorically, what have you done exactly?
What have you?
Where would I know you from?
Because
what project did you do for positive in the community?
Exactly.
And I think we all know the answer is usually it's not there.
Yeah, it's usually a Facebook warrior or something that wants their voice to be heard, but doesn't want to put in the work.
Yeah, it's why I've promised myself never to be on social media, I hope, until I die. I have to do some certain pieces of it.
Yeah.
But that's my goal. I'm going to be a dinosaur and not live with it. And I'm good with that.
You should be good with that. It's definitely, and obviously from the other side of the spectrum, you get people in your age that are on Facebook, and the context or the how people communicate is completely unaware to some adults. The way they talk on Facebook, you would never hear them say those words.
Oh yeah.
In person.
Yeah.
Because they just don't.
They're hiding behind a computer.
Yeah, they don't think that clearly, quickly.
Right.
And it's just like, I mean, you can say all this stuff you want on Facebook and all this other, or like, I mean, it doesn't even have to be political. It's just what's going on in their lives. It's like, would you ever say this in real life?
Yeah.
And no, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's just weird because, I mean, then you get people that are so like, their identity is their Facebook. And it's like,
absolutely. Yep, and I see that. I see that a lot. And you know, if you think about life, it's not always fair. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Life is not fair.
Never.
And you had a coach who used to tell you that
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end of every season. He tells every one of his kids that. And he's right. Life isn't fair. And it's going to throw some curveballs at you that you never saw coming, and some things are going to happen that
You're going to deal with.
you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes folks who are involved, like you said, in Facebook and the way they are, and life wasn't fair to them, and people were not fair to them. And so this is their way of swiping back at those people.
Yeah.
Now they're on an even platform.
Yeah.
And so.
And they're only, but I mean, yeah, they get to have that little dopamine hit of they got their way, but you got your way on Facebook, man. It doesn't matter. That person, if you ever see that person, are you going to say that same thing?
Yeah.
Are you going to, I mean, even if you do, like the context of that, where are you at?
Yeah.
Are you at an assembly with your kids? Are you are you in public to where you should never even bring up these kind of topics? Like, and then they do. And then it's just like, then your kids see it. And you see it obviously all the time in sports. And it's just like, kids look at their parents and their parents just yelling. It's just like, oh, I can yell. And it's like, you stay in your, like, obviously the kids don't know to stay in their lane yet. You don't even know your parents not even staying in their lane.
Mm-hmm.
So you
it's not a good teaching mechanism.
It's not at all.
And you know, I mentor young people. It's a passion of mine, and I am always talking to them about the dangers of social media.
Yep.
And the trappings of it, and that, you know, that stuff's there for a lifetime, and you know what you think today is fun and cool, you know, and the picture that you want to post of you holding something is fun for the moment, but when you want to be hired in a certain position, then that comes back to haunt you. And that's just a minor example. Well, it's pretty major, but it's a minor example
in what could be.
Yeah. And so, I love to mentor, and that's one of the things I always talk about with these young people. And it's a dangerous world, Nate, that these young people, including yourself, you're a young guy still, are a part of. And it's kind of sad to me as I look around and I see it in the fabrics unwind from what I grew up as. I think we all think we grew up in the best of times. But and you know what? I'm still going to leave this room, and I'm going to go home to a nice place on the river and enjoy the rest of today in a very safe place in my small part of the world.
Yep. But
the unraveling of the other things, you know, just is not comfortable to me.
Yeah.
And it worries me. It worries me for you and others, but I also have great hope.
Yeah.
I maintain great hope. My glass is always half full.
It needs to be.
You guys are a group of people with a different mindset that will take us as a nation, I think, to different places. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
Don't know if the place is going to be particularly as good. Maybe.
Well,
it'll be a different place for sure.
It will be
no matter
different.
what, it'll be different.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if we can maintain our moral values and integrity of the nation and maintain our democracy as it was founded, a huge part of which was God, and that's one of the moral pieces that is being degraded. But we can maintain that, and we can get that moral reawakening, we're going to be fine. But we definitely can't survive without those elements. And I think the pendulum is swinging a long ways in one direction right now or at another time. but it'll always swing back.
Oh yeah.
I just hope
it's
it can
weird
swing.
how stuff always does return.
Mm-hmm.
People, I mean, stuff always happens again.
Yeah.
But it's just like when it comes to mentoring and like coaching, like I coached obviously with Beaverton last, spring. I was gonna say December, but it was mainly spring because of COVID. But the kids are completely, even now. I've only been out of high school for 5 years. Kids are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. Just like obviously, I would jump in and I would play and I would play with them. We had people do that back when we were in high school.
Sure.
When we had people do that, it was an immediate flip of you're here to kick my butt, so I'm here to kick your butt. Like you're old. I'm the we're the it now. Blah blah blah. Whatever.
I should be able to do this.
I should be able to do this, and then you get where me and Eric Maxwell come in and we practice against these kids, and it's not that. It is, for some kids, it's that. It's okay, we understand you're trying to make us better. And for the most part, I think all of them towards the end did get that. They had that sense of senioritis, like this is about to be it. If we're going to be at practice, we're going to use these guys. We're going to make sure we make them make us work. But at the beginning, it definitely wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't like that.
Well, I think it would be helpful. I also talk to those that I mentor about. I always start with an outline. I like them to talk about and write down 10 of their goals. And what are 10 of your goals? Your immediate, medium, long-term goals. And then talk to me about 10 of your morals and 10 of your values. And then I try to crosswalk those then in. I mean, if you say you want to be a police officer, but you somewhere in your morals and values, your decision to do drugs creeps in.
Yeah.
Well, those don't align very well.
No.
And so we need to talk about how you realign and how you make sure that if you're out of alignment, you realign. But if your goals are there and you're not to those problem areas, that you don't get there.
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of that, and I think that's really important. And I was so blessed, too, Nate, that from this small community, I had some mentors. I mean, I had parents who knew about God, and it took me a lot of years to get that all figured out in my life. But I had a couple of mentors of, they were my age, and maybe younger when they started to mentor me here. And I just can't tell you how impactful it was.
Yeah.
If I could urge your listeners to do something, it would be that I know each person listening has been gifted with some talent.
Find it and use it.
Find that talent and use it, and set your own goals and attain those goals, and make one of them using that great God-given talent that you have to go help someone who needs it. If you look around, you don't have to look far for a kid who has maybe a broken family, maybe no family, maybe wants to play basketball but doesn't have shoes. The list goes on and on. Maybe needs help with math and you're good in that. I mean, there's any number of ways to help a kid in need, and there are so many in need right now. And they just sometimes, all they need is need a friend.
Yep.
And they need someone to talk to who cares, who does care, and wonders if they got a good passing grade on the exam.
Yeah. Just to even ask them that question, then their face lights up. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, and another thing, like what you're saying about mentors being like the same age as you, like there's a lot of people even now that I figure out, it's like, dude, like, yeah, you're 23, 22, but you, just me looking at you, like, you got your stuff together. Like, that's cool to see. Yeah. Like, when other people younger than you are like, okay, like, dang, he's getting this done. Like, he's very well put together. He knows what he's doing, and the focus is just there. And it's crazy to see people that young doing that. And then it obviously, makes you feel a little bit weird, but it's like, man, that just makes me think like I can do that too. Yeah.
And if you can do it. Oh, anyone can, because if you think about it, when you're in high school, how about before you get to high school and you're a junior high student and you aspire to be the star football player or basketball player?
And you're looking up to just that senior in
and
your
you're
school.
looking at that senior. So I tell every one of my mentees, remember this: you are always on an interview.
Yeah.
Always on an interview.
You're always being watched.
That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
You're always on an interview.
Yep.
And someone is watching you, and you don't know who, and you don't know how impactful you are to them, and they'll think, and they're like, well, I'm just a kid. Who would be looking up to me?
Yeah.
Well, that kid who's aspiring to be
you
as the athlete on the team is watching you. So how do you act in front of them?
Yep.
How do you act behind the scenes when the cameras are off?
And when that kid goes back to his dad, who is, some employer, and then he's like, hey, well, this kid always talks to me, and it's like, what kid? And it's, the kid, the senior, and he's like, oh, he always talks to you, like, blah, blah, and he's like, and then he, like, obviously the kid is not going to hold anything back. He's going to tell that dad whatever he thinks. And then now that dad has this whole new image of this senior who all he's ever seen is seen him play basketball at the games. And now he's like, well, this kid talks to my son all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, and my son comes home super happy.
Yeah.
When my son's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, like, you just go with it.
And that holds true at any age. It doesn't matter if you are the person in the business, and the cleaning person walks by in the evening when you're on your way out. Take that time to recognize and ask about their family and their life, and it goes kind of back to that whole thing about caring and being kind.
Yeah.
And really, it goes back to where we kind of started this conversation. I decided I was going to go on The Price is Right. I made it a goal.
Yeah.
And then I set a plan and action to get there. And it didn't happen overnight.
Yep.
But eventually it happened. And so I work with these kids and ask them to set goals and to start to attain those goals and think about things as, for many of them, I help them get bank accounts started.
Yeah.
And
your bank account.
Right.
That's a thing it's very difficult, and to be able to, like, once you start understanding how you're using the bank account, like having a debit card.
Right.
It's a very dangerous, but once you figure it out, it's a very good thing, because then you can see everything.
That's
and
right.
Not to get back on the phones, but you can see it right on your phone how much you are spending.
Right.
Blah blah blah, and it says Taco Bell. It says Myers. It says gas. It says.
It
all
also
those
says,
things.
and I had this conversation with one today. It also says an ATM fee $3, and so I asked this young person. I said, so I'd like you to go, and since we opened the bank account, I want you to look at those, and I want you to add that up. How many dollars? There's 3 of them at $3. This isn't a matter of 7 days.
Yeah.
I said, all right. So what you essentially just did is take a $10 bill and throw it out the window. Now, what is your long-term goal? Well, I'd like to get a car. All right. You just took $10 and threw it out the window instead of throwing it into an account for that car.
Yep.
And it's things like that that to teach them how do you save those dollars and why it's important. And then ultimately, I want to help you understand that by setting up a retirement account now and saving for yourself and paying yourself and doing things like saving those ATM fees. You can retire at 45, and their eyes light up.
And they're like, 45. I have so much life left still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but you just got to take the little bit now.
Yeah, it's part of teaching and part of giving them what they don't know and understand. And again, they just want someone who cares.
Yeah, for sure. And like when it comes to like just taking like steps, you said that you were like writing a book.
Yeah.
When it comes to writing the book, how small of a step or spending that time like writing is worth it for you? Like when you sit down and write, how long do you sit down?
Sometimes an hour, but I'll revisit the story many times and try to perfect it. I often write about events shortly after they've occurred. I often write about people who have passed shortly after they've occurred because they've had some impact on my life, and I want to do my part to show what that impact was.
To do it justice.
Yeah, who are those? Who are they? I went to my family's gravestones in the cemetery here, and I clean them up for Memorial Day, and I look around the cemetery, and I know a lot of the old names on those plots down there. How many people walk in there do not know them? And I think, wow, 100 years ago, that person was the name in this community.
Yeah.
And today, no one knows anything about them.
Yeah.
Well, I think the people who I write about have stories to tell that can impact people beyond us.
Yeah.
And so if it helps a couple of people and they get...
Later, yeah.
Yeah, later. And then I write about fun stuff. It's not all morbid. I do write a lot of funny stories about things that have occurred, like the recent treble hook in my face while taking the godson fishing. I'll write about that whole story, and show pictures, and it's just entertaining stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And then you put that on TikTok though, didn't you?
Well, he did because he talked me into it because again, it's social media, and I'm like, no way, not going to happen. He says, but I will get so many likes, and right back to that story. Yeah. I'm like, and we can win $10,000, and I'm like,
ooh, maybe.
Oh, really? so he says, if we get a million hits, we'll get $10,000. I'm like, oh, that's just pretty entertaining, maybe. Well, the entertaining part was the hook. That was the first piece. Well, then I let his dad, there's a method, you can find it on YouTube, how to pull that hook out.
Yeah.
So I let his dad pull the hook out of my face.
Yeah.
Okay, the first pull didn't go well. My cheek went out some distance, but the hook remained.
Yeah.
Now it's really in there.
Yeah.
I was disgusted in this video. And the blood, and there was quite a bit of blood trickling down in it. And so that was the second video. Third part was part 2 of pulling the hook out.
Yeah.
This time, 1, 2, 3, out it comes, and then I really bled.
Yeah.
So within, I don't know, like 6 hours, he put it up. He was like, 32 likes. Oh man. Oh, this is going crazy. It's going wild.
32 likes, yeah.
We're going crazy. We're going viral. And so then, I don't know, that's 6 hours later or something, or like 30,000 views.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this might work.
Yeah, this is good.
How much money can we make?
I want to be a part of this.
But
my pain is our money.
Yeah. And I'm like, and that's exactly right. We had this discussion. He said, well, 50-50. I'm like, wait a minute, 50-50. How do you get any money here? You're the one that hooked me.
He's first half. Yeah. Without him.
Well, I taped it. It's my account. Or taped it. Yeah, it shows you my age. Taped it. I recorded it. And anyway.
It's my account.
It's my account. So anyway, we didn't reach our goal, but we have a great story, and we still have the videos.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a lot of laughs.
And Landon's the funny kid.
Oh, he's a hoot.
Oh, man. Oh. What else we got going here? That was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long that went, but that was good. I'm pretty. So, like, to get onto that, what kind of advice would you give someone for something that they want to do, but they obviously know it is like down the road? It's like it's going to be a large project.
Right.
So how do you tackle large projects?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with that end in mind, work in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And set the goal, and then set the strategies to reach that goal. And take it in bite-sized chunks. So if I know that I want to write this book of stories, I have a lot of them cataloged by title that I want to do, but I still work full-time, and I have all of these community obligations and 100 other things that I do, so it's tough to find the writing time. So what I do is I write them as I can and spend time doing it, not totally dedicated to it, and then I tuck them in file, and then that file gets uploaded to this online platform where they'll actually put it into book form ultimately. Dang. And so, that's just one example. But I think that the key is getting off your butt. You have to get yourself in gear by setting some goals for yourself and then strategizing about how to make them happen. And you cannot there's a specific word I'm looking for. Oh goodness, I can't get the word. It's working with someone to get their kind of elicit their information from them, their knowledge.
Can't cooperate or
no. Network. Okay. So you can't over network.
Oh, you can't. Okay. Yes.
You use networking to best advantage that
Oh, yeah.
you can. You know, Nate, you and I have known each other. I watched you grow up.
Yep.
But there are a lot of things that you didn't know, even sitting here today, that you didn't know about me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you and I have seen each other, you know, hundreds of times, and you know, and I'm very visible in the community, and yet you didn't know that, you know, I was a mayor.
Yeah, all this other,
all of that other stuff. Well, networking with someone who seems like they may have a lot of knowledge in general is a wise decision, because you don't know what I know or where I've been or who I know.
Yep.
And because I personally get no bigger thrill than helping a young person out. I mean, that
is fun.
To me, to network, to put you in connection with someone who can connect with someone, to get you where you want to go, and I can watch you excel, man, that is the bomb for me.
It's fun watching people grow. And like, that's the main thing I wanted to get into podcasting, because like there's so many people have, like, obviously I've heard you say all these stories over, like, growing up. I knew you had a ton of stories, same with being with Roy and Shad and all them. And when I talked to Brandon, he had stories, and it's just like, I've heard so many of your stories, but that's literally like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy when you do actually sit down with people and talk to them about, like, obviously, like you said, I didn't know half the stuff that you told me before. And like McCain taking your comb.
Yeah, right.
Like, when would you ever think you'd get a story like that? Like, you never hear about stuff like that because no one ever tells it.
Yeah, and I met this guy, and he will go down in the history books. McCain's name will be in the history books. He was the deciding vote. Okay, so he's a Republican, and the Democrats under President Obama were trying to get health care passed through Congress. Late into the night, like 2 a.m., McCain's the last senator to come in to vote. He is the tie-breaking vote. Yeah. And he and President Trump did not see eye to eye, to say the least. And so everybody's watching, and he comes in, and he gives it his tie-breaking vote, which passed the Democratic proposal. And the world gasped on both sides. Yeah. And that will be in the history books. Yeah. So I have a little slice of fame there. Yeah. And in that guy stole my comb. Yep. And that's my claim to fame. So there you are.
That's awesome. Cool.